So in this video, I'm going to tell you something that you can start doing right now to become more charismatic. Now, honestly, the hardest thing about this is starting it. That's why it hurts. It's something you don't want to hear. It's something you don't want to do. But once you push past this barrier and actually start it, your charisma is going to go up exponentially. It's going to be like putting a dollar into like your bank, and then every single day that passes, it doubles. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because when I was in middle school and high school, I was so obsessed on becoming the most social and charismatic guy that I could possibly be. And the reason why I was so obsessed about this was because I grew up as that shy, awkward kid. And you probably can relate to this. You probably might have experienced what it's like to be that shy, awkward kid in school. You know, you have sucky conversations because you have no idea what to say. You get social anxiety whenever you leave or enter a room. You feel like everyone's looking at you. You know, you're around these girls that you want to talk to, but you can't talk to them because you know you're awkward. And it just feels like a death sentence. Being that awkward and shy person just completely sucks. You can't do anything. But the worst thing about it is seeing other people in your day to day life talk to people effortlessly, make a bunch of friends, go out and doing things while you just can't seem to find the answer on how to actually talk to people and become more charismatic. And after years of experiencing basically all these problems of being shy and awkward, I told myself, dude, I gotta change this because deep down inside, I wanted to make friends and do things and experience things. I wanted to not have social anxiety and just be comfortable being my own self. I wanted to start talking to women more comfortably and start dating women. So once I started thinking about these things, I was like, okay, what is the number one thing to do? And what is the best thing that I can do that's going to just increase my social skills and charisma? And after trying to find this out, I did one thing and I went to YouTube. So what I basically did is that I spent hundreds of hours watching videos on how to be more charismatic to basically live this whole another universe of being charismatic, you know, making friends, actually being comfortable with yourself. And throughout all these hours of research and the hours of watching YouTube, I've heard and I learned so many concepts, you know, things that helped me, things that didn't help me. But it wasn't until this one thing that I found about and I realized me doing completely transformed my charisma skills. If there was only one thing that you could do to improve your charisma, it would be this thing that I'm going to tell you. Doing and starting this thing that I did not want to do, but ended up doing anyways because I knew I had to face it. Because I knew I had to face it. Took me from this shy kid who was literally known in school for being the guy that never spoke to someone who's now known for being a public speaker, connecting with people, going and being comfortable with myself. It actually makes me excited, actually meeting people, going out and trying new places and meeting and improving my social circle. And this concept, this thing that will hurt you is basically getting a service industry job. So I'm talking about working at a retail store, Walmart, Target, or the fast food industry, McDonald's, you know, Chick-fil-A. Now, if you got pissed at what I just said, this exactly proves my point. It's gonna hurt because honestly, you don't want to do that. When I was a kid, I didn't want to do it either because who honestly wants to work at these places, right? You get paid pennies, the pay's low, you have to be there for 8 hours a day, you have to work with a bunch of people you don't want to work with, you have to work with a bunch of rude customers, and I get it. I didn't want to do it either. But don't click out this video yet because this could actually change your life. And let me tell you something. But what if I were to tell you that all of these negative aspects, all of these things that you face in the service industry jobs, right? What if I were to tell you that those are the traits and those are the scenarios that you need to be in order to improve your charisma? And that every single charismatic person, every single extrovert has been through or still does these things in the service job industry. Now you might be thinking, what am I talking about? And I'm going to explain all this in this video. But in this video, I'm basically going to be highlighting what the service industry job does, how it's improved my social skills, my charisma, why it's important. And especially if you're a younger guy, definitely try to get a service industry job, or if you're someone that's older, try to get a job that's dealing with lots of people, you know, working with a bunch of people. That's what this video is going to be about. Without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to tell you exactly how this is going to improve your charisma. I'm going to tell you how to take advantage of this and grow to the most charismatic person you can be. All right, so I'm not going to fluff you. I never like fluffing people. It's pretty obvious what the service industry job does, right? It doesn't take a college degree to understand that, okay, the service job, you're working with people, you're going to be forced to talk to more people, customers, co-workers. That's obvious, right? We all know that. But there's two aspects of the service job industry that is going to take your charisma skills from all the way down here to all the way up here. The first one that I can think about is that when you're working in a service food retail job, so maybe like at a McDonald's or at, like a store like a Menards or like a Walmart, is that you're forced to work under pressure. And I'm going to tell you a story on how this completely changed my charisma skills. Unfortunately, I've been in the food industry for around 6 years. I guess fortunately for this video, right? Because I'm praising you on why you should do it. But I've been in this industry for around 6 years. And one of the second jobs that I had was working at a Buffalo Wild Wings. Now, if you're not from America, if you don't know what it is, this is basically like a burger wing place. It's like a bar. And I remember I was a hostess there. So I was a hostess, and this is basically when you greet the people at the door and you basically take them to a table or a booth, right? So you get them sit down and ready to eat, right? So I would do this, and then I would also bring out the food. And I remember very specifically this one time I was bringing out a bunch of food to a huge table of people. So this family, right, they were at this long table. There was probably around like 15, 20 of them. And I remember I was handing out the food with my other coworker. And there's this one time I was handing out the last plate. And due to like the other tables hitting each other, I couldn't go around exactly to where this little girl was to hand her a plate. So I was kind of like in the middle of between two tables. And because I couldn't get through, I sort of had to like, reach my hand and like put it over a couple people. And, I was almost there. I'm like handing it to the girl. I'm like, oh, pick it up, pick it up. And the dad was like, you better not hit anybody. You're my daughter. And, he was saying it like pretty strictly. He was like giving me the look and everything. And fortunately, during this time, I learned that during charisma, when someone tries to insult you, they try to push you. I know to be calm under pressure. This is like a separate tip, by the way. If you didn't know that, when someone is very hostile, very rude against you, most important thing is to dial it down. Don't be offended by it. Don't get emotional by it. So luckily, I was like, "Oh, don't worry, sir. I've been doing this for a while." Or I said something like, "Oh, like, nah, don't worry, I got it. Like, I would never do that to you." Something like that. Something not too aggressive. And during that time, he was just confused. He was just like, he was expecting me to say something back. But I realized during this time that him talking to me, I was like, dude, I've faced this so many times. I was literally working under pressure so many times, dealing with rude customers sometimes, dealing with customers saying, hey, hurry up, it's a high pressure job. And I realized that when you're in social skills, when you're in social situations, this is super important too. Because think of it like this: your brain, when you're experiencing these rude customers, when you're working high under pressure, your brain is basically saying, okay, you just experienced something mean, but we have a job to do. We have other people. We have to just deal with it, keep it calm, and go on to the next one. Go on to the next task that you have in this job. And once I realized that I was dealing with so many tasks and dealing with so many things under high pressure, I realized in social situations that I took things less seriously. And I was dealing with a bunch of people, I was dealing with lots of social situations. And I realized, why am I not taking things as seriously? Why are bad conversations happening, but I'm just letting it go? I don't think about it like I did. And the reason why that was because my brain was literally doing the same thing that I was doing in the restaurants. So my brain was basically like, okay, you experienced something rude, de-escalate it, move on. And this happened too. I got used to it in social situations as well. My brain was like, okay, you experienced a bad conversation, someone said something you didn't like, just move on. So that's something that I realized, that when you work under high pressure, you are basically training yourself to deal with a bunch of hate, deal with a bunch of pressure, and you get used to that. And when you get used to it, you become more comfortable with it. And when you get more comfortable with it in the workforce, you get more comfortable with it in social situations. So, for example, if you're working 2 years in the food industry, you're going to eventually talk to so many people. You're going to be used to meeting more people, obviously. But when you do with those rude customers, it's going to be weird at first. You don't want to do it. But when you deal with it in social situations, you're going to be like, dude, I've literally dealt with customers that were telling me to piss off because they wanted their food. Why would I get mad over this guy? So that's a concept, one of the most important concepts that the service industry has when when trying to improve your charisma. You're going to get used to that pressure, and you're going to care less. You're going to move on to things when you experience bad conversations. The second thing that a service industry job does, and why I recommend it to every single person to improve charisma, is basically it helps you develop your social tone. Now, I'm going to tell you what a social tone is. And basically, it's basically when you find it basically helps you find your speaking style when you talk to new people. My speaking style has honestly changed from when I was an introvert to now I get claimed as an extrovert, but I still call myself an introvert because deep down inside, that's who I truly am. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because people don't realize that speaking and actually just like connecting in general with people, it's a skill itself. You have to practice it. That's why when we're babies, we have to learn the language, we have to learn mannerisms, we have to learn how to be polite. And so the reason why I'm telling you this is because when you go into like a service or retail job, right? In my experience, I was not used to the tone of the customer, the service, the retail service job. I was not used to that whatsoever, and so basically, basically what it is that you can't talk in your normal voice like I'm talking to you now. You have to be like, "Oh, is there anything I can help you with, sir?" Be like, "Hello, welcome to McDonald's. How can I help you?" It's that voice. And basically, why this works so much in charisma is because you get to experience you get to experiment with a whole new tone, which is going to help you develop your overall tone in general. So, for example, I noticed that when I was working 5 months in the service industry for a while, I noticed that I started being more polite to people. I noticed that my tone with people changed, and I was being more polite. I was asking more questions, and I was like, "Oh no way!" Like my service tone, the way I speak when I'm working, it's getting into my personal life. And I realized that this is extremely useful in charisma because when you're in charisma, you have to have this certain politeness to you. You have to have this certain tone where it's like, okay, this is what I can offer you. And when you're in the service job, you basically have that tone. You're like, hey, this is what I can offer you. I'm helpful, just call me if you need anything. And it's the same thing with charisma. It's the same exact tone. So these two principles definitely help you in the social in when increasing your social skills and your charisma. Definitely something I recommend every single person to do. You get practice, work under pressure, helps you develop your social tone. Like, share, subscribe, and let's see you in the next one. Peace.